latest project. It is new 2D project. Hey, how you doing, Cesar? I'm on 6.3. I'm giving it a name. And let's create. So there's our new project, 2D. Um, the best things in life are worth waiting for. No, your computer is too slow. No, actually, I don't know. It always takes a long time. Unity is, yeah, my computer is pretty good, but it just needs the time. I think it's because everything has to connect to the internet. So depending on how good your internet, like this would probably be faster if we had better internet. I mean, it's the same. It's like with the game industry. Any game you buy and you put in, you got to spend 8 hours waiting for it to download extra pieces. Everything's online now. Hey, so happy New Year. Hope you had a good break. Did it go well? Are you ready for this new year? Any cool resolution? Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. Hey, we'll see. Huh? Yeah. I remember this conversation when it's April, and I'm like, bam, what happened? Oh yeah, it was only 2 years ago. You were so young. Well, I've been. This is my 10th year, so three times or a couple of times I've done. Actually, no, that wouldn't make sense. Basically, more than a couple of times I have. So yes, I think I do. Games. Yeah. Although I don't know, sometimes Unity is so annoying. You know what I mean? Like, and you feel trapped in it. But UX UI, I sometimes feel like I'm running out of things. Like I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, more usability again. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I don't know, man. Which is easier? Because UX UI, it used to be very hard to teach because there wasn't enough information around, and now there's so much. Like, but now it's become really hard to set tasks or even nobody knows what the industry is going to be like because of AI. AI generation could just give you the best idea. Yeah, I don't know. No, I'd say games. Games definitely. There's always a moment where I can go, now we can do this or figure something else out. Oh yeah. You don't have that eureka moment in UX UI because you're not really the developer. Whereas this, you can actually change things in script. What is all this? Clear? Can I press play? Yes, all is well. No. I'm just testing that if I can enter play mode, if I can enter play mode, then it means. No, I entered. I'm just checking that play mode works. Because if that doesn't work, big problems. Yeah. Class is barely started. He's like, whoa, hold on, there's nobody do anything. Oh, the song is coming. Great. Again, another big part of working in 2D.
Wave makers.
Is user interfaces and things like this, all of this 2D kind of design, windows. Damn, I've lost that menu.
All right, here we go. Follow.
Great. Oh, 2D platforms is also a Unity game. It's the
Man, this is
classic
awesome.
pixel art aesthetic. Using a character controller, rigid body character, moving through, and then switching animations depending on what you're doing.
Did I get that? No, I guess not. All right.
So Unity's very good at
Hey, let's
handling
get it.
this
Looks
kind
like
of stuff,
checkpoints also
where you
give him,
have
like, little
animations
blocks of
playing
health.
as
Okay.
you move,
He's locked in a cage. Let's get this. Warning.
and things like
Bandit
levels of
Bob.
there. So it all starts with building the building blocks as you create in Unity. So our classic building blocks are up here in Assets, 2D, and Sprites. Sprites. So this gives us our standard shapes that we can create. Triangles, squares, circles, capsules. Sorry, Emmanuel, you just joined a new Unity project in 2D, is what we're starting.
Like we did 3D first.
Yeah. Why? Because 3D is more difficult. Therefore, you get to 2D and you're like, yes, I can do so much with this. Now you learn everything about Unity from doing 3D. You know, all the three aspects of it. And also, we're not done with 3D. I think we can do more with it. Do 2D and 3D together. Yeah, I decided to do 3D first because there's Blender involved, and I think if you get to semester 2 in your final year, and I'm like, hey, new software, you might lose your mind. So I'll try and keep the software to a minimum. How are we doing? Is Unity open?
Almost there.
All right, everything I do, I'll delete and do again. So, sprites we can create. There's a whole list of them. The triangle. you kidding me? Oh, there we go. Phew. And see, I have a triangle I've created. And much like Figma, I've got my rect controller. I can resize. I can rotate. And I can use the inspector to change its color. So these are like the symbols, the building blocks, like the cubes and the spheres that we had in 3D. Again, right click, 2D object. I can make a square. It's okay, I'm going to do it all again. Right click. Sure. So anything I'm creating that is just appearing in the 2D space. And looking at something like a platform level design, you decide where the ground is, what levels there are to jump across. And then we could say, oh, well, this is kind of what I'm thinking. This is my platform game. There's our character. There's our enemy. Here's our levels, our spaces. That is what those empty sprites are for. They're just the building blocks. And then you can add textures and sprites to it later on. Inside of Unity? Yeah. Yeah. Let me delete it all. Do it again. So, you can go to the Assets window. Oh, why is it giving me... Oh, sorry, not Assets. Game Object, 2D Object. I'm just so confused. It's the first day. Game Object, 2D Object, Sprites. So, sprite is like a word for a ghost. And then we have our standards: triangle, square, circle, capsule, isometric diamond, hexagon flat top, hexagon point top, 9 slice. Let's go ahead and create the first 4: the triangle, the square, the circle, and the capsule. Create those in our scene. Hero, new Unity project, 2D. That's what we're doing, yes. 2D project. How you doing? It's gonna take a while. Yeah, that's what we were doing for the first 10 minutes. We're like, So I'm going to make 4 of these 2D object shapes, a triangle. I'll move it over here. Game object, 2D object, sprite, square. Move it over here. Game object, 2D object, circle. I could move it over here. Game object, 2D object, capsule. So that's what I was using for the player, the capsule. For the color, we can change to whatever color we want. Is in game object 2D object. He doesn't know. You don't triangle. Ah, yeah, yeah. The older 2022. It's okay. It doesn't matter. You don't need it. Square is the only one you really need. Circle, yeah, create a circle, a square, and a capsule. Let's forget about triangle. Remember, your duplicate key is Control D. And then the square is what I was using for any ground plane that we were creating. And any kind of platforms we wanted to add. I'm just going to add some floating platforms. I'll just put one right here. I'll put this little character on top of it. Let's add some rigid body physics in here. So first I'm going to need to add colliders to these. The ground is the first thing I'm going to look at, this square for the ground. And we just need to add a collider to it. Let's go to add component. And we want physics 2D. We're in 2D. And then we're going to want box collider 2D. So if I turn off my sprite render, you can see there is this green box around the square. Turn it back on, I can see it off. I can still see that green box. That is the collider, like the physical surface. Turn that off, it's off. On. I'm going to add another collider into the mix. This will be to the capsule. First, it'll need a collider. Again, let's go to physics 2D. And you can guess, because it's a capsule shape, we can add a capsule collider 2D. again, if I turn off my sprite render, you can see there is this green outline. That is the capsule collider.
So you didn't do the same thing for the other cluster.
I didn't, but you can do that now. Let's do it. Add components to the red capsule, and again, I'll go to physics 2D, capsule collider 2D.
What's happening if you add box collider in the caps collider? How can you delete?
If you add a box collider, there it is. It'll work. It'll still work. If you want to delete any component, you just go to the three little dots up here and remove. But that'll still work just fine, I think.
What's the difference like between capsule collider 2D and just capsule?
The reason we use capsule collider for things like characters is that the box, it has corners. So if you're moving as a character, you can get caught on a corner. Whereas if you're the capsule, it's smooth, which means you're less likely to get stuck on tiny little bits sticking out of the ground. So generally we use capsule colliders for that reason. So you can slide through things easily.
The floor only had the box collider?
Just a box collider, yeah. And then for our circle, what kind of collider do you think? Circle collider, yes. And again, you should be able to see that when you turn off your render. There's that circle collider. Oh, and one more box collider. Let's forget about the triangle. Forget about them.
Just because we don't have it. See?
All right, next we're going to add some physics to this whole operation so we can see the physics end, and I want to go through physics materials as well. So I'm going to select all of these except for the ground. Shift select. So I've got all of these shapes selected. Capsule, circle, square. And we're going to add rigid body to all of these, except the ground. Add component, rigid body 2D. The 2D is important.
What's the difference between them?
This one's 3D.
Okay.
So yeah, it's counting 3D physics forward and backwards and all that, whereas this is just 2D, X and Y.
So we select everything except the floor?
Yep, and we add the rigid body. And now we should have physics working. You can test if you press play. You should see things fall to the ground. Down. And we can interact with them ever so slightly. Oh, and this one still has a box collider on it, as you can see. Control D. I could make a fried eggs game. I'm frying sausages. flip it over. Also very similar to the Angry Birds physics, if you've ever played those games, the way these react. You could build a perfect Angry Birds game inside of this. Also, we're noting that they are rolling as they hit these things. Which?
The white one.
It is a circle.
Oh, you just duplicate it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I tried it. Like do everything together, but it said that I couldn't select, like I couldn't edit multiple at the same time.
Yeah, only things with the same components can be multi-edited, it would say. But it doesn't mean you can't add the things at the same time, even if they're not the same. I'll do one more. Okay. That's just I can't. I just do that to my laptop. Like, okay, take anything you want. Just don't hit the face. Oh, we're back. Okay, cool. Yeah, so if I have irregular objects, like another sprite here, let's say a triangle. Even though this doesn't have a collider, and this has a rigid body and a capsule collider, it has this thing that they only exist on some of the can't be multi-edited. That's the message you're getting. But it doesn't mean you can't add an extra to the same. It just means they won't have the same amount of components. So you can still add rigid body 2D. In this case, I can't because it's already a rigid body.
Yeah, ask one question.
Yes.
How do you do this zoom and then you select?
You mean this?
Yeah.
That's a separate thing just for teaching. It works on software. It's called Zoom It. So it's just something you buy, or not buy, it's free.
Because I do like it.
It is kind of good sometimes when there's a really dense UI and you can just zoom in for yourself and go, oh, that's what that says. Oh, I see. Anyway, physics materials. Let's look at them. So I'm going to move these guys out of the way. I'm going to duplicate this 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So it's a circle with a collider and a rigid body.
So what do you do for physics? That's what I'm missing.
Okay, so the circle has a collider and a rigid body 2D. And you just need to go to Add Component. You can search at the top, or you can go to Physics 2D. And it's or, so F, P, Q, or. Where's your body 2D?
That's all we have to do for physics.
Yep. We're going to leave it at the default settings. And next we want to add physics materials so we can make them bouncy or have friction. So what I'm going to do is go to game object. Is it game object? No, assets. Creates 2D physics material 2D. Creates 2D physics material 2D. And I'm going to name this bounce max. Bounce max. And in its settings, you can see we've got friction, we have bounciness. I'm going to put bounciness up to 1, which is full. And friction to 0.
Mine is the main object name new new physics material 2D should match the assets file name.
Hmm.
Yeah, I got the same. No, because it still has to be fitting material. See, fix. The fix button. Yeah. Really? Yeah, I think fix. Oh, okay. I don't know why I have it too. I like they put a button there that just says fix it. Yeah.
They could do that every time. Like, your project's broken. You wanna
Please.
press?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll fix it. Okay, the next physics material. Assets again. Create 2D. Not sprites. Physics material 2D. Assets. Creates 2D. Physics material. And this one we'll call bounce half.
So I got the same error. Ignore it unless it says we can't template.
It's annoying. Seguramente
No errors?
no errors.
You can ignore it for now. I'll think about it.
Oh.
Leave that out.
Same error most times.
So,
Estaba aquí.
so are you saying, I'm gonna have to add it in this. You must have,
Yeah.
we can tell. Because I was duplicating.
Oh no, it was just. Why you're here? Why you're here? Like to record the screen. Is there a
Okay, so next physics material called bounce half. Great. Do it again. Bounce half. This time friction 0, bounciness 0.5. Literally half the full. For bounce half. Now, I've got two yellow circles. I'm gonna rename these. If I just select both at once, select one, shift select the other, I can change both of their names at the same time. Yellow circle. And you see they're both circle and circle 1 over here. As soon as I press enter, bam. Yellow circle, yellow circle. I'll do the same for these other two. Shift select the two circles. I'm going to change their name. Right now they say their name is circle 2, circle 3. Pink circle. To add our physics material to it, all we need to do is drag it onto the object we want. So if I want to add bounce max to the pink ones, I just drag it from my assets onto my object. So bounce max is going on the two pink ones. And you see, once I've dragged it on, if you look in the inspector, in our collider, because our circle collider is the physical surface that's touching things, it's added the bouncy material.
So the pinky one we go for max.
Yep. And if we press play and test right now, we should see the max function hitting. I've only added it to the first two. They bounce. And at maximum bounce, you'll notice they never stop bouncing. They're continuing. In fact, I think they're getting higher. Yep, they are. For our other two, the yellow ones, we can add our bounce half to it. The collider. But if you just drag it onto the shape, it'll automatically put it in the right place. But yes, circle collider. It does fit on the rigid body too, though. You notice that. Add bounce half to the yellow. And you see that has bounce half is at 0.5, but it does have maximum bounce combine. But with half of the bounciness, it should decrease as it's falling. A little bit of bounce, but it's halving it every single time.
Why the pink one 100% stop and the little one is
Because of our this, we have full bounciness and our combine is at maximum, which means it's 100% bounce every time and it's combining, it's adding on and on. If If I stop and I change bounce max to say 0.9, then that's less than full, which means it should diminish ever so slightly every single time. It's maths, it's mathematics. Exponents? Remember exponents? Exponential? If I'm right, this should get smaller every time, but I'm never right. So, less, less, less. So it's doing 90% of the previous bounce every time. Less, less.
It's like decreasing 10% each time.
Yeah, but even then, I don't know if we're doing the math quite right because I don't understand. You know, it's physics math, so it's like the impact of force. But yeah, let's say it's like that. It's 90%, 10% less every time, and it should stop at some point.
Geometry, okay.
See, I don't know if it'll ever stop. I don't know. Is it get? I don't think it's going to get any smaller than that. There you go. It stopped. But this one won't. But anyway, yeah, that's the power of the different physics materials. The friction would stop things rolling, and it's good for grip. You need your car to be gripping onto stuff. The friction thing can work. So if we add a little tilt on it, no, that probably wouldn't work. Yeah. Anyway, physics materials and how to add them. Obviously, they're going to react to different angles. And then the calculation is going to be way off because of that and send them sailing in different directions. So any physics-based game you're thinking of, you can probably put together. If you want to make a pool game or pinball. Ah, ah, ah. The reason that's not reacting is it's not a rigid body, it's not registering the forces. Okay. Now I think time for the attendance. Please take your phone out of your pocket. QR code scanner ready. The first of the year. 5, 4, 3. Do I have the right?
You're saying that I cannot control myself in this field. Really? Might as well. There's the...
Oh, did I not say? You're expelled, man. I forgot to say. You can't enroll yourself. That's weird. Okay, you're supposed to be here though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you are. That wasn't a question. That wasn't a question. I know you're supposed to be here. I'll check and see if you're literally Not on the list anymore. Is it working for anyone else? It did work. Sorry, I'll leave it up. I'm not sure if you can see it. No, it's on the side. Yeah, you're not on the list anymore. No. No Hit Hinton either. Your name? Did it give you a message saying you weren't enrolled, or is it just? That's everybody. Yeah, if you need to send an email to the office, or if you need me to send one, to send me an email about it to remind me. All right, that leads us into our next exciting task. Huh? Yeah.
Y'all ready for this?
Are you ready? Get hype. Yay. That's right. We're going back to 1972 for a game made immortal. It was the first home game anybody could play. 2-player action, sprites, rigid bodies, physics materials in 2D. Yeah. How else would I get it? Who's gonna make me a Pong 90s dance music video? No, of course I made it. To get you all pumped and hyped for Pong. So, let's make a new scene. You can save this scene if you want. I don't need to. New scene, and we still have our physics materials. Basic 2D built in. Yep. Down in here, I'm going to need 3 folders. Folder. Folder 1. Physics materials. Folder 2. Sprites. Yes. New scene, basic 2D built in. And folder number 3. Scripts. So 3 new folders. for sprites, our assets that we need are up on Moodle in a folder called assets. So you need to download those and import them into Unity. These are the assets you need for Pond. Mm-hmm. Which? No, that's old.
No, I can't find the. I this one of them.
This is the assets here.
But where is that?
We topic 1, semester 2, game design 2. You're not added to it. Okay. How can I send you guys this? You need it. Luis. Yeah. Okay, so when you have the Pong assets downloaded, you'll need to extract them from the folder. And then we just import them to our sprites folder. So I'm going to open that up. Assets, import new assets. Or you can drag and drop from the Windows Explorer. Import new asset. I'm going to look in my downloads folder. And select all 5 of these. Yeah, in sprites. only 38 lines of code to get this thing working. First, we have to do a bit of setup to build our board. Our game structure is pretty clear. Each of the walls on the left or right will be goal walls. If the ball touches that wall, it will increase the score of the opposing player. Our rackets, we can move only on the y-axis, up and down. Our ball can go in any direction, depending on how it rebounds. This line in the middle is the only thing without a collider, because it's just marking the center of the court, like the net in tennis. First thing we're going to modify is the camera. We're going to change its background color to whatever you want, as long as it's darker than white. And the size will say, it says 40 here, I would say 30 would be a better size.
Sorry, it's not going the documents for the inspired. Could you just show the
It's not, it's not going. What do you mean? You can't open it.
I cannot just draw the files that we
Ah, right. So, did you extract?
yeah.
It is extracted? Oh. Okay, if it's not zipped, then you should be able to drag and drop.
Or you can just import as is that. Hey. That is it.
It wasn't show here, you know.
No, because that's inside.
All right, camera. Let's select our camera because again, the tutorial is outdated. It looks a little bit different now, but we do have size right there. Let's say size 30. Yeah. Camera selected. Size 30. And then the color will be down in environment. And right now it's set to skybox. We're going to change that to solid color. And then just pick whatever color you prefer, as long as it's dark enough that the white will stand up against it. White, of course, or black is the default. I'm going to pick, that's too dark, sorry. That is on the camera, in environment, and background. But I've changed it to solid color background, which is why I'm able to see this color change.
Why your background changed everything? Okay.
I have the game view open.
Oh yeah.
Um, the last step is just this color change. So environment, solid color on the camera. It might look different in your user interface. And size was 30. That's it. Okay, next we need to bring our assets into our world. So sprite, oh, I'm gonna move my physics materials into my physics materials folder. That just makes sense. Sprites. So I'll start with the dotted line. I'm just gonna drag my dotted line into my world. And then blip. Where is it? You should see much the same thing where it looks like it's just disappeared. And if I deselect it, it looks like it's gone. But it is there. It's just very, 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 very small. These are very small, like the size of these sprites. 32 by 1 pixel, 96 bytes. They're so, so tiny, tiny small. If I double click, I can zoom in. There it is. Teeny, tiny, tiny little thing. Now, you might think we just start scaling up and getting things to work with it. No, Unity sorts this out first by letting us apply our own unit scale. So I'm going to select my dotted line in the assets window here. And right here it has pixels per unit, as in how many pixels to fit per Unity unit. And right now it's set to 100. We're going to lower that value so it's only 1 pixel per unit to get our scale. So I press pixels per unit 1, and this is with the dotted line selected in the assets window. Pixels per unit 1. So it already exists in my hierarchy, so we're going to see the change happen right here when I click apply. Pixels per unit 1, and I just click apply. Hey, and it's a more reasonable size, because now it's using 1 pixel per unit per square, you could say. And that is in the tutorial as well. It's the next thing we do. Pixels per unit 1, again in the old UI. And the other main change is to change the filter mode to point, no filter. It just means you get crystal clear pixel values, which we will need for here because you can see it's quite kind of smoothing over the dots in the dotted line. So again, pixels per unit 1 is our filter mode. Filter mode point. I'm going to change, again, I'm still on the dotted line. Change the filter mode to point, no filter. So, 2 things I changed. Oh yeah, I'll click apply and you'll see this change from very blurry to very sharp. Apply, there we go. We have our dots. We have our line. And it's the same import settings for all of the other sprites. Pixels per unit 1, filter mode, point, no filter. So you can change them all now, and they'll be ready for the rest. 2 things.
I can see the reverse.
You can't see the what?
Yeah, to change the pixels per unit. Do I need to
Are you selecting in the assets? Or if you're yeah, the one in the inspector is an instance, like instantiation. That's a copy of the original. This is the original, the main.
So we did pixels per unit for one and what else?
And filter mode, point, no filter. So I'm going to add the rest of my objects. Ball as well. Ball, I'll throw it in there. Dotted line I've already added. Racket. racket.
The filter mode.
Yeah.
I can't see the one we select. So filter mode, point, no filter,
Yeah.
and then just flash.
Yep.
No, linear.
No. You're interrupting. You're interrupting. I was about to change them. I haven't changed them yet. I've only changed dotted line. This is what I have. Pixels per unit, 1. Filter mode, point, no filter.
Okay.
So Linton, you're saying you cannot see point, no filter?
Yeah, no.
You have? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I'll do them one at a time. Might be easier.
And we'll do the same with all the sprites.
Yes. So I'm gonna add the ball. I'm just gonna do it this way. I'm gonna add the ball. I'm gonna add my racket. I'm gonna add my wall horizontal. I'm just dragging it into the scene. I'm gonna add my wall vertical. Now each one, they still need to have their pixels per unit changed down here in assets. So wall vertical, change that to 1. Point, no filter. Click apply. Hey, there it is. It worked. Wall horizontal. Pixels per unit 1. Filter mode, point, no filter, yet again. Click apply, and I should see that jump up into place. Hey, there we go. Racket, same thing. Pixels per unit 1. Filter mode, point, no filter. Hey, there it is. And finally the ball. 1. Point, no filter. And that is all the pieces that we need for our game. And that was the long way of doing it. I literally could have selected all of them at once and just said pixels per unit. 100.
One of them has point no filter.
Yeah. All of them the same settings. Pixel per unit 1, point no filter. And if I add bilinear filtering to them, you can see it gets that smoothed over look. I mean, that's the only one it'll affect. Trilinear, even more smoothing. Okay, next, colliders. Everything except the dotted line needs a collider. So I'm just going to shift select 1, 2, 3, 4. Just these 4 selected together. The walls, the ball, and the racket. Because the ball is going to collide with the racket, and obviously it needs to collide with the walls. They need colliders. And since they're all square shapes, they can all use box colliders. Add collider, box collider 2D. And there's their colliders. Save your scene. Always a good idea. All going well? With us. How are you doing? All good? Whew. Okay, last thing, and then we'll take a short break. Let's put together our board. Maximize. First, we need to decide where the dotted line is supposed to be. The camera icon here, that's the center of the world, so that's handy place to put it. Drop it here. And then I'm just going to duplicate the wall at the top, Control D, to make a wall at the bottom. And duplicate this wall on the right. Make a wall on the left. And we just have to line them up. I'm not going to resize them at all. I'm going to stick with this scale. And don't forget that when you're moving, you can hold V to get them to snap to each other. The V key. Okay, now I think we need a break. Did everyone sign the sheet of paper? Yep. Yep.
sea, porque en mi mente a lo mejor esperaba que estaba obteniendo mucho. Sí, como dijo que intentáramos pasarnos de Blender a
Yo,
Max.
eso sí, eso sí. De hecho, le iba a preguntar a ver si
Sí, un día nos podía dar ese camino. Yo intenté, sin pegadero. Encima mi computadora que es una mierda, se traba cada rato, me daba un problema, me daba otro. Dios. Estoy bien si me compro otro computador, de verdad. Para cosas para como programar y tal. O sea, es que
Las MSI creo que está saliendo buenas. Nunca he tenido una
o sea,
MSI
como para cosas de oficina y cosas así estaba sobrada, inclusive para programar cosas que hacemos con John y así, pero lo de bases de datos grandes o cosas así, o sea, por ejemplo, lo de que hicimos en Cosmos, como no corrió en mi computadora, tuve que hacerlo en Docker y luego en Docker lo hace más pesado y funciona, pero hace un cagadero.
pero eso toca verlo entonces. Uy,
Y para los juegos y Blender,
sí, para los juegos
es
se demora
una
una
mierda.
cosa
Una
exagerada.
mierda. Pero bueno, ya me tranquilizó un poco, dije, no sé ni cómo es que me pongo un 70, pero puta.
Hay que celebrar.
Celebrar, ya me relajó un poco más para
una materia más.
I went to talk with Juliana,
You want to talk to who? Sorry.
with Juliana
Yeah.
about, and I think I'm now in the code, so if maybe if I could try, or if you can check if I'm on the list already.
Oh,
Maybe.
that's gonna be very fast. I'll see. I left that recording the whole break time. That's great. Nice big block. I'll have to edit it. Okay, where are we now? No. Oh wait, that's you, right?
Yeah.
You're in. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Helen, you need to have the same conversation, I think.
Yeah.
Right, so let's continue.
Are we have we're done. We can go with no. Start very quick, and then you send your output, and then we'll just maybe throw a hold.
Ah, it says right here, cannot open a new scene while playing. Restart. Okay. Always say so. Bingo. Always say so. I'm here. Like, not very many people here today, so I could help. Anyway, there is a tutorial to help you out, to help you catch up. It is on the Moodle page. This one. I know basically the things that we did, adding it in. It is on topic 1 tutorial. Okay, so we have these objects. They have colliders. There are two objects that need rigid bodies, the ball and the racket. So I'm going to select both of those, the ball and the racket. Box collider 2D, box collider 2D. And with both of these selected, I'm going to add a rigid body component.
How did you exit the maximize thing?
3 dots, maximize, 3 dots, and then just unselect maximize. And yeah, let's add a rigid body to these two. Run the insert rigid body 2D. And let's say gravity scale 0. Collision detection continuous. For the racket and the ball. Oh yeah, and one other constraint actually. Freeze rotation. Yes. So just for the rigid body? Or yeah. Rigid body settings. We have gravity scale is 0. Collision detection continuous. This is for the ball and the racket. So both the ball and the racket will have rigid body because they're the things that are going to move. And the last thing, in constraints, freeze rotation. And then we're going to make a change to the ball. The ball is going to weigh a lot less than the racket. So just the ball. I'm going to lower the mass of this ball. 0.0001. So this is just on the ball.
You have the corner perfect as yours.
What corner?
The corners. The wall.
Yeah.
You said press V.
Yeah, as you're moving, if you hold V or I press V and hold. You see it snapping. My thing is snapping to a corner. I can click from that corner and snap to another corner. All right, last thing to do on the ball is we're going to add a physics material, the bouncy material. So I can go to my physics materials. And put bounce max.
So, why you need to close and they need to do everything again?
Oh, there should be an autosave.
Yeah.
Wait, did you save?
No, I didn't.
At all?
Yeah.
Everybody save right now.
Yeah.
There is autosave recovery when you reopen it. You mightn't have to do everything again.
I did almost everything. I just don't have the boss.
Hmm.
The boss max and the boss power.
Okay.
Could you just show
Yeah.
what and I input the
Yeah. Well, yeah, we only need one. So create in game object. I'm not making that mistake again. No, wait, it is assets. Goddamn. 2D physics material 2D. One. Nope. Oh yeah. If you want bounce half. But for this we only need bounce max. Anyway, we're going to add bounce max to the ball. We should see this ball falling. Oh yeah, it's not using gravity, so yeah, it wouldn't fall. Hmm? No gravity for the ball. That was just to test that things were working, the bouncing was working. So, the ball, it has bounce max on it, on the collider. It has a rigid body. You're ready to go. Next thing, I'm just going to do a little bit of renaming. I want to know which wall is the top, which is the left, which is the bottom, which is the right. So I'm just going to rename that wall on the top to wall top, wall on the bottom to wall bottom, wall on the right to wall right, wall left. Okay, and I'm going to duplicate this racket here. Control D. I'll rename that to racket right. Okay, now we're ready for some real fun. Scripting. Yeah. So let's open up our scripts folder. And we're going to create a new script, new monobehavior script. Right click, create monobehavior script. And we're going to name it Move Racket. Yeah, so go to, it's an asset, go to create asset, or you can right click in the project panel. Monobehavior script. We'll open it up in your favorite code editor, Microsoft Visual Studio. Okay, we don't need start or update, so we get rid of them. First thing I'm going to add is a float for speed. And we'll say 30F. And we make it public so we can adjust it later if it's too fast, too slow. Then we're going to create a void method. And since we're using the physics engine to move, we will use fixed update, F-I-X-E-D, capital F, capital U, open and close parentheses, open and close curly brackets. Next we're going to do is access the input manager and get an access. So input dot get access raw. And the one we're going to look for is vertical. So what this does is it accesses the input manager. I think we looked at it a little bit last semester when we were doing controls. Oh yeah. better make sure this is set up first before you do anything else. Check your project settings. Check your player. And we're looking for the word input. Yeah, so I'm going to need to change this or we won't be able to use the input method because it's using the new system package, which is not quite worked out. So this is a change you're all going to have to make if it isn't made already. I know you had to your role before. With the last character controller, basically I need to change it to say both, and then it's going to reset Unity on me. So I'm going to save my project first. I'm going to save this script as it is. Gonna have to be more specific. The player? I think, yeah. So I'm gonna do that now. So edit, go down to project settings. And in project settings, just search up here for the word input. And there's only 3 places it's pointing us to, but we're in the right place. It's in player. And we're going to go down, 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 down until we see input highlighted, which is here. Active input handling. I'm going to change to both. It's going to say the Unity editor must be restarted for this change to take effect. Cancel to revert changes. I'm going to say apply. Hi. Which? What we just did? It's to do with there's a new way of coding for inputs, and it's not quite reliable yet. But Unity are trying to push people to use it, and the old version is what we are using today, which is why I'm switching to both. I don't know why it's not both by default. You know, yeah. But hey, we're back. So when we're accessing this, this vertical refers to something in the input manager, the axes in the input manager, which is here. You can see there it is. There's vertical. And all it is it's mapping keys to different joystick axes. So the x-axis or the y-axis could be your throttle or your steering. And these are set up already to be used. We drop down vertical, which we're going to be using. You can see it has positive and negative buttons. The positive button is up, the up arrow. Negative button is down, the down arrow. Alternate positive is W and S, the WASD. So what I'm going to do is store this input axis as a float value because it's calculating plus or minus. Anyway, we're going to store this as a float value so we can apply it to our rigid body. Float V for vertical. Next, we want to, oh yeah, I'll put a little comment in here. So we want to access the rigid body 2D. The linear velocity new vector 2 we're going to multiply our new direction by our speed. So, vector 2, there's our x value, there's our y value. What direction will we go when we press play? With these values. Will we move horizontally, vertically? That should be a capital V. Okay, if you finish the script, you can test. Let me know what happens. Up. Will it? Tell me. Test. Will the racket move? That's my question to you. Have you tested? Does it work? Does anything happen? Will the racket move from this script? That is my question. No.
Because we didn't add it.
He's got it. We actually didn't use our input value at all. So we're storing it in the vertical, which is the X or the Y. What's vertical? What's up and down? X or Y? The Y vertical is, or the Y is vertical, yeah. So if this is X and this is Y, we need to change our Y value. If I just add a 1 in there, actually, I'll do the test like you guys did. Press play. Nothing happens. Another crucial thing, we didn't add the script to the racket. So let's do that before we test. Move racket, I'm going to add to racket left, and I'm going to add to racket right. Just dragging it onto them. You can see the script is working just fine because we can see our public speed float. Both of them. Both of them will have the same script. But yeah, I can press WS, I can press arrows. They're not going to move. This is because it's exactly as Ellington said, we haven't added our value that we created here. Our float V, we're not using it at all. But just as a test, if I add the number 1 to the Y value of this vector, the vertical, now it's just going to move by itself. Press play. And they move up. Constantly moving up. If I try and bring them down, they're still going to move up by themselves because they're updating in time with the physics engine to move 1 unit up. Well, actually 30 times 30 speed. You mean if I let it go? Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye forever. Is that what you mean? Okay, make sure your walls, because you know you added them later, make sure they have box colliders. Because that's what's stopping them from leaving. But anyway, yeah, if I change that value again, say -1, what do you think is going to happen? That's right, it's going straight to hell. It's going down. Negative. So that's what switching between the positive and negative means. And that's what our input manager is doing. Because it gives us positive or negative buttons, so that'll add +1, -1, either direction. And since we've called on vertical, we can go back to our script. Our float V, that is accessing our positive or negative button, we just put that in the Y value. Now we can control plus or -1, and we can send it up or down. Up, down, up, down. Only problem with this, they're both. Oh, you got an error. Well, besides having an error, uh, in your console, does it tell you what line the error is on?
What line number is it? Okay. The T in rigid body 2D. Oh, so the anti namespace vector is on the top. That's the next one. New vector 2 because it's a two x and y. Vector
I
2.
think it's XY.
What do you mean it doesn't? Can you go back to Unity?
No, yeah. Shows better.
That's a 6920 plus 9. Divided by 9. Input capital I. Pixel take capital A. What do you call it? Pix up. Rigid body. At the end, rigid body is just like 2D. Looks like an explosion. Okay. No. No. This is the one. Rigid body. At the end. What? What? What is a capital B? Pixel center body. Pixel center body 2D. Vector 2. Vector 2, x and y. Vector 3, x, y, and z. Everything else is good?
Nope.
Signal. Nope.
And
Did
mine's
you
not
check?
moving at all.
Did you add the script to the racket? Where is? There's no error. Full game view? What do you mean? Full game view.
Yeah, but you know.
Did you get the GNU image?
But we're not done yet.
Not over.
It is not over. The king of Iron Fist. So, it works, but they both move at the same time. That wouldn't be very competitive. Player 2 needs its own autonomy. So let's sort this out. Back in this same script, I'm going to add another value here, a string value. I'm going to name it axis. What is a string? You know what a string is. You've heard other coding classes and you talk about strings. What is it? Come on. Yes, it is text. Do not doubt yourself. This is a string right here. It's referring to a string value in the input manager. And that's what we're going to replace. So instead of vertical, we're going to put the variable here, the string variable axis. This means, and we make it public, this means we can change it in the inspector depending on which player we assign it to, so we can give them a different input. By default, we're going to set it to be vertical, just like it was before. So a string axis that is equal to vertical in these quotes. And it replaces the get axis raw part. That was an easy bit of scripting. Easy. Now we're officially done with this. In Unity, if we check our racket left, let me roll that up, roll that up, roll that up. You can see it now says vertical on both sides, referring to the input manager. So what we're going to do in the input manager is add vertical 2, a new vertical axis. Again, go to our edit, project settings. We're going to go to the input manager, and I have 30 axes here. I'm going to change that to 31. I'm going to add one on. 31. And press enter. So whatever number you have, if it's 20, just add one on. $31. And what that's going to do is add another axis input manager onto the end. It's called debug horizontal for me. It's just a copy of what the last one was. I'm going to rename it vertical 2. And then we can come up with our own positive and negative buttons. Maybe I and K, or I put 31 in, and I went down to the last entry, the very last one, and it was called debug horizontal. I renamed it to vertical 2. And for our negative button, let's say K. And then right above that is I for me, but you might have different keyboard layouts. I. Well, the positive means go up, negative means go down. Set the key or mouse button, and X axis. Mhm.
The only change we are doing is the vertical 2 KI
Mm.
and the X.
Yeah. And then that input is set up. It'll check for positive and negative input. We can apply that without writing another script. We can add another player because it's looking for the string value, and we just made it vertical too. So let's, if everyone has that, I'm going to close the input manager. And then on our other player, racket right, we just change that axis to vertical 2. Yep, just close, it saves automatically. Speaking of save automatically, save. Control S. And we test right now. If I press I and K, this moves up and down. If I press W and S, this happens. We've got independent movement. On the racket or in the input manager? On the racket, yeah. Just select racket right, and it by default it's vertical. And in the axis here, we just change it to vertical 2. Do you have that appearing in? Yep. And it's only vertical 2 because that's what we named it in the input manager. And then that should work independently. You should be able to play a proper 2-player game. Yep. No. No.
What keys did you select?
The same. I press K and
The error is obviously low.
come on, pay attention. See, simple thing, but é no script, aqui no new script. Não, calma. Não tem o script. Aqui, que script é esse? Como é que tá escrito? No new.
That's not bad. That's very good.
Ah, eu quero. É que o meu tá aparecendo assim, ó. Axis. Você não fez isso no.
Ah, você não fez lá no settings, né?
Não. Tá lá no script.
No, it's over. Oh, hang on.
Tu abriu, pô. Tá lá no Visual Code.
Into that. No, hold on.
Calma, cara. Axis, vertical.
It's because you have it enclosed. It's not a string, it's a variable.
Thank you.
No problem.
Teacher.
Yes?
Just one. Just something.
It's gonna wait. You can wait. Yeah.
Because the next bit is the most irritating bit of coding in the whole thing, so I think we need to get into it. Hello?
But the laptop moves with the Windows next.
Yes. And if you prefer for the right to use the arrows, you can just change vertical 2 in the input manager to have up and down as. Anyway, the next script. New new script, monobehavior script, and it's called ball. 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 That's all I'll say. Ball. We can put this script on the ball. Right. Okay, so we're going to give this thing a starting velocity. Okay, so we're not going to use update, but we are going to use the start method. All right. We can use a speed float as well. Let's say 30F. Can modify that later. And a private rigid body 2D. I'm going to call it ORB. Okay, so create a speed, much like we're using for the racket. We're accessing the rigid body component, and then we're adding a linear velocity, this time to the right, multiplied by speed. I test with just that. That should give us an initial velocity to start our bounce. Hey, it's moving. But you'll notice it doesn't matter where our ball hits on the racket. It's not going to change angle unless we catch it like that. So what we need is to start calculating things based on the center of the racket, how tall the racket is, and the difference between the racket position and the ball position. Because they both have a zero. The racket 0 is right in the center. The ball 0 is right in the center of the ball. We need to take where it appears on there. So this is where it gets into a bit of complicated maths, or slightly complicated maths. If 1 is the top of the racket and -1 is the bottom of the racket, then all we need to do is find the ball's position versus the racket's position and divide that by the height, and we can know where on this object it is struck. So we need this, the hit factor, checking for ball position, vector 2, because it's an x and y position in space, the racket position, a vector 2, because it's an x and y position in space, and a float for the racket height, because it's literally a size in numbers of that racket. So a new method. It's not a void because it's going to return a value called hit factor. A float method called hit factor. Vector 2 racket position, vector 2 ball position. So it takes these 3 values, 3 arguments, as we call them. And it's not a void because it is returning a value. It's basically just doing a little mathematical equation. Take the ball's position dot y, subtract the racket position dot y, and it's giving me some autocomplete here because it knows what I'm trying to do, and divide by the height of the racket.
You were like, hey, come over here for a second. I said, in a minute.
Oh, it's
Alright, it says error on line 18. You kind of have to should equal verb here. You have to should equal verb, but I think that's the default value of x.
access and neotic to involve maybe.
Yeah, access and neodik to have from there. But no semicolon here, the semicolon at the end of that. Mas isso mesmo, né? Tem aqui. O ruim tá dando aí nessa linha. É Float V igual a input. Ponto get axis row. Só que o get axis não é isso. Hey, no, you can't touch my computer.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, 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 no. If one, it should be showing these variables, but it shows this one. Just doesn't show this. Let's see, override. Cool. Oh, is there another? That's the number one. I forget which one. No, I can't. No, I can't see it. I'm back into it. Sorry, say that. What were your questions?
Just not one.
They are one for one. If you go back to our input axis is not zero. With the computer zero? Let's because of the script. Might be looking at something in the script.
The same.
You put it in quotes. The axis is not a string, it's a variable name. See? So yeah, the input manager is fine. Mine still doesn't work.
Besides the script, the box collider, and the rigid body for the ball, is there any
No. Besides the
script,
script.
rigid body, and box collider for the ball? Como ball non
No, there's nothing after the ball. Oh, and the physics material, the bouncy physics material. That goes on the collider to the ball.
Te falei que o nome teu tu salvou diferente, cara. O teu nome não tá no nome do meu. O nome do meu tá muito embaixo. O teu tá mono, não sei o que lá, new mono, não sei o que lá.
Yeah.
Volta.
Ah, it's sending me a trigger. It's igual. It's not.
Volta aí, depois eu vejo.
final piece of this to make it work is to apply this hit factor inside of an on collision. So basically, we want to, the second the ball touches the racket, it's going to run this and check for the height of the racket. This means if you have power ups and the racket gets bigger, this script will still work. It'll still calculate where it is hitting on the racket. So we need an on collision. On collision, enter 2D. 2D takes an argument of collision, col, which would be the name. Everything I do is in the tutorial, just so you know. On collision, enter 2D. Collision 2D col. Col holds the collision information. The ball collided with a racket, then col.gameObject is the racket. Col.transform position is the racket's position. Col.collider is the racket's collider. So basically, the thing the ball is hitting is the col part of it, the collider. So we check if, oh, and it's giving me autocomplete. Col.gameObjectName is equal to racket left, which is what we named it. Then we need to store our hit factor as a float value, which is just y. Yeah, we need to calculate the y angle going back. Y equals hit factor. And see, it's giving me the autocomplete, or telling me what this hit factor contains. It needs a vector to the ball position, vector to the racket position. As we said, it's the col. So for the ball position, since the script is on the ball, we can just say transform dot position. The racket is the collider we're hitting, so it's col dot transform dot position. And the last one is our racket height, which is the collider we're hitting. Call, and this one, I get confused because it's so long. Call dot collider dot bounds dot size dot y. Yeah, it's a long one. I have to double check I got that right. I did. Call.collider.bounds.size.y. Yeah, it sounds like overthink, but the collider is the racket we're hitting. Collider is its collider. Bounds is the boundary of it. Size is the size of it, and then we're going just on the y-axis. We need a new vector 2 to store our new direction. So I'll create a vector 2 dir variable, and then create our new vector 2. So on the x is just going to be positive 1. This is going back from the left to the right. And for the y, we're going to take our float, our hit factor, because our calculation goes there. And we're also going to normalize it into a value between 0 and 1. Then lastly, we apply this to our rigid body, which we've stored up here as ORB. ORB dot linear velocity. our new direction multiplied by speed. Same ball speed value as before. Hmm? Yeah, yeah. Set, save, and test. There's still one little bit to do, but it's very easy to get it to work on the other racket. Yeah, test, and if it's working, then we'll do the next part. Hmm. Well, that's fine. That's fine too.
I just because it gave me one error where we were using velocity instead of
Yes,
linear velocity.
that's the change that we had to update because they've added angular velocity as well now. You can get yeah calculate torque and stuff. But yeah, so that's the thing that's changed there. If I go back and I test right now, you'll be able to see that if it hits the racket on the right, it doesn't behave properly at all. See, it's just going straight, straight, no matter where I hit it, goes straight, straight, straight ahead. If I use racket left, it can calculate, oh no, it doesn't work. All my big talk. Script error on collision enter 2D. Now this is why you pay attention to your error messages. What am I doing wrong? The message parameter has to be of type collision 2D.
Collision 2D.
Oh, collision 2D call? Is that what I need to do?
Yeah.
See? There you go. It's always something. We go back to the script. Yep. Collision 2D. I had the wrong message argument. Save that. Go back. I didn't have 2D on the end of my message parameter, but now if I test it, it should work exactly as, hey, there we go. Now we're getting angles. So I'll go back to the script. Oh, class is over. That's the one thing I missed. Collision 2D, I just put collision, which is what you do in 3D. Yeah, and for racket right, very simple. We just copy this if statement. And I'm going to paste it down still inside on collision enter 2D. And I only need to make two changes. One, the name, bracket right. And two, this X value. So +1 goes from left to right. If I'm hitting the racket on the right, I need to go from right to left, -1.
So the arrows aren't working, or the mouse is working? Oh. Okay. And also, like, when I do the play mode, doesn't change the background. It changes, no? Oh yeah, but it's just staying in this screen. Yeah, it's having an error, so it's not. Yeah, the same. The same. I think I have the controls there. Is everything right, coach? Not quite everything. Did no, the script is working fine. Oh, vertical or vertical? Right click that. Have to put the hook. Right. No, this is left. Right. Oh, put vertical. We're not getting those errors anymore. Okay, so that's good. And that would just be the ball you said there? But I don't think that's why it's stopping on collision enter.
Yeah. Does anyone have Sabrina's contact information? Can you message her? Tell her to check her email. She needs to send me her bill again. Yeah. Yes, I saw that, but I haven't had time to check it, obviously, because I've been here.
So,
Yeah, I will check when I get home.